Welcome to another episode of the Read Pile. Just about a month ago, after I finished reading the first issue of Punisher Get Fury, or is it just Get Fury? The book's in the pile. I went back to my comic shop the next week, and I'm like, hey, do you have any more Ennis Punisher stuff? Because I want more. I really enjoyed it. I haven't read really any Punisher in my life, except when he guest starred as in somebody else's book. I did, so, let's backtrack one step. I did own, I don't know how this came into my possession. I don't remember buying it. It's such a weird one-off thing, because I didn't have the whole series, but I did have When Punisher Was an Angel, the issue where he fights Wolverine. I can't explain it. I don't know how I had it. I think I know why I had it, which is Pat Lee. I just don't remember how I got it. Anyway, this is, I believe, immediately following those Angel miniseries. This is Frank coming back to Earth. He's no longer in the employ of Angels that is addressed in the first issue. He is just on the street, stripped down. He talks about microchip a few times throughout the series and how even he's not around anymore. It's just Frank with a pile of guns, and it's great. Now, what I also want to say is there's this introduction here in the beginning. This is 20 plus years ago. This is, I think it started in 2000, maybe 99, and I wonder how many reprints this has had. So, this collection was originally put out in 2001. But in this introduction here, Ennis is talking about not defending Frank. He says, there's a brilliant paragraph down here, not a complex analysis of the causes of crime, not a portrait of one man's tragic descent into murderous psychosis, not an in-depth examination of the vigilante down the ages. And yes, so he's talking about Punisher being entertainment. He mentions Dirty Harry. He mentions the Killer in here, the not the Netflix one, but the John Woo, Johnny and Fat. Entertainment, right? It's not, and I believe subsequent series have sort of gone into that in-depth analysis of Punisher, consequences, both sides, stuff. But this is not that. It took me a while, but I actually came to realize that it was actually a comedy. Because at one point, Punisher is wounded, and he's fleeing from guys that are after him, and he runs into a zoo. And there are various encounters with animal enclosures and bad guys, and so he throws this guy, he's holding this guy into a piranha tank, and then within moments, just clean skeleton. And I'm like, well, that's not quite how that works. But then he runs over to a polar bear enclosure. Get this. Sucks a polar bear in the face. Look at that face. Good God. I haven't mentioned yet, but this is all done by Steve Dillon. And I have a weird relationship with Steve Dillon, because I ordinarily like him, but not initially. And every time I encounter it, it's like, oh, it's art by Steve Dillon. And then by the end of one issue, I'm like, I'm into it. It's just, there's something. There's some kind of gut reaction immediately after seeing his art where I'm like, okay. Anyway, Punisher punches a polar bear. The mob guys follow him into this enclosure. They're angry. There's a mauling. This is actually the woman that Punisher is going after throughout the series. She's the head of one of the families. it's presumed at this point that she's going to be eaten by polar bears, and she somewhat is, because this is the start of the next issue. And I don't ordinarily laugh at quadriplegics, but it was honestly this splash page where I'm like, oh, it's a comedy, and this is the start of issue 5. Like, it had been pretty dark up until this point, but it's very much in the same vein of dark comedy as Preacher, which I should have expected. It's just, it took me a while to get into that mindset. So throughout the series, he's doing a variety of things, but he is ultimately going after this woman and her crime family. He murders dozens of people. There's I think at one point she says something like 80 people. It's a lot. At one point, he also goes up against Daredevil, and this scene is just brilliant. Because it starts when he is about to snipe a guy who's getting out of jail. So he knows where the guy is going to be. He sets up on a rooftop, runs into Daredevil. Punisher says that he can't beat him. But he did prepare, much like Batman. So he takes out Daredevil, chains him up. There's this gun taped to his hand, and Punisher says, he gives him a choice, right? He goes, you can let me shoot this guy and live with that on your conscience, or there's this gun with one bullet, and you can shoot me instead, but I'm wearing Kevlar, and it would have to be a kill shot. It would have to be a headshot in order to stop me. And the way this scene plays out is just brilliant. I loved it. The whole series is fantastic. There's an ad here at the beginning for more collections. I may look into some of these as well, because the manager, Berg, was talking about how there's a great Punisher and Spider-Man scene. It's not in this, but it must be somewhere. And supposedly Punisher has the best line of dialogue ever, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. There are also... So I talked a little bit about, in response to this introduction, there is a bit about analysis of the causes of crime. It's not really an in-depth analysis, but there are, I'll say, multiple conversations, because this guy is one of them, but there are copycat killers that pop up throughout town. This guy is the sort of high-end, this guy is going after corporate crime, and there's another guy who is working out of a church. And they do discuss why they're doing what they're doing, and at the very end of this, Punisher does interact with them, and it's another just, frankly, amazing scene. I loved this. More than, I guess, I ever expected I was going to enjoy Punisher, because Punisher ordinarily is the guy that shows up in somebody else's comic, and they give a speech, and, you know, the hero talks about why the Punisher is bad. This is just, it's that sort of dirty, hairy, it's the, what's inside, I think, all of us, where we see something in the world and we wish we could do something, and I don't know if we wish we could be frank, but we wish, you know, karma, justice, something could be done, not necessarily that we're going to pick up a gun and start killing people, but that some sort of justice could be done in the world. And this sort of feeds into that base animal instinct, and it's, honestly, it's a lot of fun. It is comedy. There's a bit of, as I said, examination as to why people are doing what they're doing, but it's not a breakdown of Frank, at least as written by Garth Ennis. As I said, I believe other writers have attempted that, and I have not read them, so I don't know whether or not they have been successful or not, but this is fun. It's violent. It's also great. It's, like I said, it's right in that pocket of Preacher, and if you enjoyed Preacher, I imagine you're going to enjoy this too.